one of by far the biggest W's of the Trump administration, aside from the deportation of millions of illegals and stuff like that. Obviously, gas prices are down, average salaries are up, stuff like that. Aside from all that, in my opinion, one of the biggest W's is the culture shift that we're feeling in America. You could say that there's two genders without worrying about, getting immediately fired and then shanked by a trans Tifa member with green hair and piercings. But another diabolical twist, in my opinion, culturally, is the fact that, remember how during Black Lives Matter, everyone used to go up there and be like, it's not enough to be not racist, you must be anti-racist. Well, things are changed, because now it's not enough to be not racist. You have to be just a little bit of what the liberals actually do consider racist. This is Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, absolutely going nuclear on a reporter, and honestly, in the best way. We're going to be looking at all the liberal media shills that are honestly still putting up the good fight for the Afghan migrants that are murdering our people. We're going to be looking at a lot of tards today. Today's a tard special, but lock in, boys and girls, because the culture shifted, and finally, I believe the retard liberals are the ones on the out.
Channel 4 here in Jacksonville. I just have 4 questions. One, Florida is home to hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants who...
All right, so that's what the guy says. Florida is home to, hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants. Get ready for the clapback.
Are working in areas...
Well, so the federal government has made clear that the statutory term, it's not they're illegal aliens. That's the statutory term, and that's what it is. And I think it's to try to water down.
That's right. That's right.
Undocumented. It's like if I get in my car and I forget my wallet.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have my document on me, like my driver's license. But I mean, I still have a right to drive. I just made a mistake. This is intentional to come in illegally. And it's not just a question of missing a document. It's a question of, you violated the law.
Yeah.
That we're very
illegal invader. And this is how the left has been operating for years. They will water down and they will switch around terminologies in order to honestly destroy you. Undocumented immigrant? What the hell is that? What the hell is an undocumented immigrant? It's an illegal invader. All right? Why are we doing this?
Clear and knowingly, and with the help of the cartels in many cases.
So I'll rephrase that. So Florida is home to hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants who are illegal aliens.
Illegal aliens. That's right, reporter. Say it correctly. And for the record, they've been doing this about everything. A phobia means an irrational fear. That's what phobia means. So when people say, like, Islamophobia, technically that should mean an irrational fear of Islam and, the followers of Muhammad, police be upon him. But, in specific certain instances, that fear is not necessarily irrational. So is it really a phobia? Same with transphobia. It's not an irrational fear of trans people. I just personally believe that there are two genders, and I don't want my children being indoctrinated or groomed into some sort of cult. This is not a phobia, all right? And it's everything. Homophobia. I am not irrationally terrified of gay people. Like, what are we doing? I just think that marriage as a spiritual construct is something designed by God to be between a man and a woman. When I see some people, some youths on the street, I might cross the street or pick a different street on the subway based on, basically statistics and facts. And, you could argue that makes me racist, but it really doesn't make me racist. It makes me being able to recognize patterns and want to survive. It makes the judges that keep releasing repeat offenders out of jails the actual racists. So this contortion of language has been existing for a really, really long time. It's why the CIA developed the word conspiracy theorists. Because when we were conspiracy theorists saying that Biden administration was opening the floodgates and opening the border to flood our country with illegals to steal elections, we were called conspiracy theorists. It's a completely invalidating term when in reality it was just absolutely correct. So I'm really glad that we're actually getting back on the right train of thought in regards to language in general. Now, it got even wilder. So Tucker Carlson did an interview with Piers Morgan the other day. And I have to show you this clip because I'm telling you, Piers Morgan, he may not be a super radical wokey, but he's still a liberal. And that means he's still retarded. That means he's still a little bit retarded. So get a load of this, man.
This was not a communist country, but I'm just saying Britain voluntarily joined the war. It was a war that you were not involved in, and you got in.
Right, so this is Tucker Carlson basically saying it's England's fault for joining World War II, and Hitler was kind of the good guy. This has been a really weird twist in the Tucker Carlson drama lately. So again, this is one of those instances where no one's exactly correct in my view here. I'm not here to support either side of this argument, but specifically when it comes to Piers Morgan, the conversation evolves into, ever since the end of World War II, the demographics in England definitely did change a lot. What are your thoughts on this?
Why do you look at this and see a wrecked country? I don't.
Well, I don't see an English country. So we're in the city of London now.
What do you mean there? What do you mean by that?
It's not... Well, people whose ancestors built Stonehenge are not here anymore. So the city of London is 36% white, and that's happened in the last, I don't know, 40 years.
But England is about 70% white.
England.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it was
99%
in 1945.
Okay, so we've evolved.
We've evolved, ladies and gentlemen. We have evolved ourselves into becoming an ethnic minority. Uh-oh.
But you're on the way to becoming the minority in the country.
So what? I love living in a very multicultural
But you're rich. I mean,
No,
you're
no,
rich.
it's
And you
not
go to the
that.
white parts of London, they're exactly the same as they were when I was a child. I've been coming here for 50 years. They're exactly the same.
What?
Yeah, but if you don't live in the rich gated communities, it's actually not a good thing. So anyway, this is hoisted by his petard. This is libtard Piers Morgan saying he actually doesn't give a shit that the culture is changing in England because it's evolving to have multiculturalism. There's better food, and he basically doubled down and defended this take about how food is better because that's the only thing they have. That's literally the only defense every single time. It's like, what do you like better about this multicultural society? Oh, well, the food is so much better. First of all, true. Second of all, I don't think you needed to go through a rape an hour to get there. To be clear, all right, this is England, all right, this is an England story from that just happened. So a migrant killed 269 people in an Easter bombing in 2019. 269 people just got his asylum claim appealed. The migrant suspected a bomb attack which killed 269 people wins appeal in UK decision to refuse him asylum. They're not deporting a guy that murdered 269 people. You are telling me that this is normal? This isn't normal. What are we talking about? That's crazy. It's insane. And then Tucker Carlson, of course, has to run defense also and simp for the radical Islamists that are being imported into these countries.
I do think, again, that the over-amplification of the Islam problem, as people put it, or the Muslim problem.
The over-amplification, for the record, we're just talking about England statistics, okay? In England, there are more than 2 Islamic terrorist attacks every single month in England. All right, so the over-amplification is being like, yo, we actually don't want 2+ Islamic terrorist attacks a month in England. Really hot take. I know. This is hard to wrap your head around. It's just the price to pay for some better food. You know what I'm saying? Look, man, the grooming gangs, the mass rapes, the terrorist attacks, it's a small price to pay for better food. Am I right, Piers?
Be massively overstated.
Well, that's an op.
And then of course, he says that's an op, obviously. Hey, why would anyone harbor resentment towards mass immigration of Muslims? Obviously, that's an operation.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Hate the Muslims. No, we know where that's coming from.
I don't
The Jews. It's the Jews.
like it.
I hate it. How is hate
It's the Jews.
the Muslims better than hate the Christians or hate the Jews?
It's not. It's all the same.
not. It's the same.
It's all the same. It's all the same. As someone that doesn't hate anyone on an individual level, I just personally have a distaste for cultures that, harbor massive terrorist attacks and mass rape, and I don't want them in my communities. All right, this isn't a hate the Muslim situation. This is a you are actually retarded. It's not an op. Okay, there are grooming gangs. Islamic grooming gangs, that's what it is. Like, you just say it for what it is, that are roaming the streets in England, that are out there raping kids and shit. And he's like, yeah, it's just an op. The Jews are tricking you to hate the Muslims.
Hatred is hatred is hatred.
I totally agree.
It doesn't matter who you're hating. The moment you're in the hate game, then I think you're losing whatever argument it is you're trying to have.
I totally agree.
He totally agrees that hatred is bad if you're in the hate game. I'm really glad that we could agree that hatred of any group of people is bad.
The Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that?
Right.
And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody.
Wow. So hate is bad, I guess, specifically when it's against Muslims? That's pretty interesting. Anyway, it's an interesting take. Anyway, interestingly enough, but a total tangent, this is the former Qatari Prime Minister mentioning that he has tons of American journalists on his payroll.
الصحفيين كانوا على البيرول مالنا.
Oh, what was that all about? That's weird.
شلون يعني؟ كنا ندفع لهم.
We would pay them.
بعضهم صاروا نواب الآن وبعضهم صاروا وطنيين أعرفهم أنا في دول كثيرة كانوا ندفع لهم.
It's pretty weird. That's a pretty interesting thing to admit.
يعني نشرحهم
You
كل
pay them
سنة.
every year.
وفي ناس لهم مرتبات.
Salaries.
كان في ذاك كل الدول العربية
All the Arab countries were doing this.
كانت تعمله. شو أنت فكرك
Wow, that's pretty weird. Honestly, I can't think of a single person that might potentially be on the payroll of Qatar. Personally, I can't think of a single one. So anyway, here you had Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan basically doing an interview where Piers Morgan's like, yeah, actually, I'm really happy that we're being replaced in our country because realistically, it's evolving our culture. Yay, yay, all those 13-year-old girls getting culturally enriched by the wandering grooming gangs. And then you have Tucker Carlson saying that it's a secret op to make you questioning of Muslims. You can't even make this up. So anyway, this is Ireland, all right? In Ireland, there's a new group that calls themselves the New Republican Movement, okay?
To the people of Newry, Mourne and Down, we, the New Republican Movement, have watched their councillors and MLAs over the past 12 months. The level of disrespect shown to the people who put you into power, this cannot be ignored any longer. We are proud men of Ireland. We are patriots. Your policies and decision-making in regards to flooding our communities with undocumented military-aged men is not acceptable. We will not sit back any longer and watch our culture and religion destroyed by the people we put in power. Also, the sexual indoctrination of our children in schools has not went unnoticed either. The New Republican Movement will take immediate action against anyone who threatens our ways of life and the safety of our women and children. We have your addresses and your movements. Every one of you are legitimate targets as of today. The New Republican Movement, the 28th of 11/25.
Oh my God! So they're actually starting a resistance group of guys that are probably, you know, in their 20s and 30s that honestly really hate what the politicians have been doing to their country, because it seems like no matter who you vote for, you get infinite illegal immigration in your country, in Europe. It's almost like it's literally like they talk about how America's uniparty in certain ways. Dude, you don't understand. They have been voting against illegal immigration every single time in every single European country, and they've never gotten that thing that they voted for, because both parties, no matter who's in power, always does illegal immigration. So there's really nothing you could do. This is getting really scary. Now, again, this is New York City, where you just have random people walking the streets. And
the right side of Broadway, and then you can see that he literally followed me across the street, and that's him right there, and he literally targets me and approaches me and does this.
What is that? That's crazy. That's insane. Apparently this dude targeted 14 women. Apparently. But this is crazy. It's insane that we just let this happen in our countries and in our cities. Vermont's Afghan community is terrified now because of all the racism that they're feeling. I'm just giving you a bit of a prelude before we watch the bullshit debate with Piers Morgan and Destiny basically saying, actually we shouldn't be deporting the illegals.
Covering immigrants and other marginalized communities, that often when these episodes happen, folks kind of hold their breath, praying that it isn't someone who holds their identity, right? Because often there is this reflex to demonize entire communities. And
bro, they did that to themselves. Bro, they demonized themselves, man. You know, I'm not trying to be rude here or anything, but like, come on.
Because often there is this reflex to demonize entire communities. And so if you've never had that experience of sort of holding your breath, that's something to think about. But I just got off the phone with Molly Gray. She is the executive director of the Vermont Afghan Alliance. And actually, she tells me that Vermont is home to the largest population of Afghans in the nation per capita. And so she does work with these communities. They are frightened. Some of them are not leaving their homes out of fear of retribution.
Bro, get out of here, man.
Many of them are deeply integrated into the small towns across the state at this point.
Probably.
And she says from a real practical perspective, the state is very reliant on Afghans and the immigrant workforce.
I'm sure that it is.
Because of the shrinking workforce and very small tax base.
I wonder why. I wonder why there's a shrinking workforce.
We get an emotional response to these horrible tragedies.
The emotional response of not wanting hundreds of thousands of non-vetted Afghan terrorists in our country. The emotional response. Bro, why does Vermont have an Afghan community? I feel like that's a much better question. But no, that's racist if you even ask it. This is Khalil Ibrahim, all right? This is a guy from Minnesota, that a Somalian fellow that raped a 12-year-old girl. Pretty horrible. And now you could say that, hey, there's rapists of all shapes, sizes, and colors. But I don't know any of them that got glowing endorsements from the actual Somalian community, saying that, no, actually, he's a really good guy. Many of us met him through our shared journeys. Somali refugees arriving in this country with little hope and determination. Like so many, he's faced challenges of starting over in a new culture, learning English, and raping children. Before this situation, he was a devoted family man, an outgoing person. He would talk to anyone across the community, whether taking his children to the school or the park. We witnessed his love. Yeah, we know. He has been a volunteer in our mosque. Bro, he raped a 12-year-old. He raped a 12-year-old. Why is this entire community running defense for the guy that raped a 12-year-old? Look, I'm not trying to say that there's some cultures that aren't really coexisting with us in the way that we would like it to, but the reality is it's not racism to notice that when you import people from a country where rape was legal 5 years ago and child marriage is still legal today, they might not actually mingle super well with our culture. This is not a surprise. This is a teenage girl that was murdered by her family in an honor killing. Her Western behavior shamed the family because she removed her hijab. So her brothers, Mohammed and Muhammad, they came together and they killed her. They tied her up and they threw her in a lake to drown. The feminists aren't saying anything, obviously. But no, this is not something that's improving our cultures. Zabibullah Muhammad, police be upon him. An Afghan national resettled in Montana by the Biden administration just raped a teenager. And there's just so many of these. There's so many. All right, this is Nuri, an Afghan evacuee arrested at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, with attempting to engage in a sexual act with a minor. All right, many such cases. This is Javid Ahmadi, a criminal illegal alien from Afghanistan arrested by ICE in 2025, convicted of second-degree assault, was previously allowed to stay by the Biden administration. All right, Mohammed Kareen, an Afghan national who was on a terror watch list, was in our country. He was caught by the Border Patrol and released by the Biden administration. A guy on an actual terror watch list. This is Abdullah Hajzada and Nasir Ahmed Tawedi, both Afghan nationals given legal status by the Biden administration, arrested and prosecuted for plotting a terrorist attack in Oklahoma, and so on and so forth. This is Jamal Wali, an Afghan national led into the country in the Biden administration through Operation Allies Welcome, shot and wounded too in Fairfax, Virginia. Are we on the same page? This is insane, all right? And anyone that's making believe this isn't insane is insane. So watching the liberals seethe and cope about how I can't believe we're being openly racist these days. No, we're not being openly racist. We're trying to protect ourselves. Dude, what are we talking about? And under Trump, for the first time in my lifetime, it feels like we're not the ones locked in with them. They're the ones locked in here with us. And honestly, that is a really nice culture shift. I'm really glad that we could talk about this publicly. And honestly, if Afghans would be too scared to commit violent crimes, I personally think that's a good thing. I don't want to see people terrorized in the streets just for their nationality or whatever, obviously. But I do want an actual legal precedent to be enforced that we're not going to be importing infinite people from cultures that aren't able to coexist with ours. And I also would love to deport people that were either here, A, illegally, B, lied on their immigration shit, violated their oaths, committed crimes, revoked their visas. That I fully support, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And the left is honestly screeching, trying their absolute best to mitigate this because they've lost the culture war. They're still just clinging to their institutionalized power of calling people racists. That's literally everything they have right now, and they're using it to their absolute max. It's not going to work, though. The culture shifted, and people are waking up. Maybe not liberal white women; they're still cooked. We gotta find them husbands immediately. But those guys, I don't know. But you talk to your average guy in America right now, and the culture has shifted. Even people that didn't think this way a year ago are thinking this way now because we actually have social media that's willing to actually broadcast these stories instead of censor and silence people. Even though it's still doing that, I know I've spoken to a bunch of other right-wing political channels on YouTube. Everyone's getting censored right now. Literally everyone. 80% of my views are coming from active subscribers to my channel, which never happened to me before in my life. It just proves that YouTube does not want my videos to go out to people that aren't directly subscribed to me. So definitely subscribe, absolutely, in order to actually get notified that I exist. But this is happening to everyone across YouTube. I do think that there is something nefarious going on. But anyway, you got to look at this debate, man.
Podcast Angry Patriot, Vinny Ashana, liberal streamer, Destiny, the co-founder within our lifetime, Nadine Kazwani.
Bro! Piers Morgan got a Palestinian flagtivist in the debate. Oh my God.
And Matt Tardillo, who's a podcaster and retired U.S. Army Special Forces soldier. Well, welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Nadine. Welcome back to Uncensored. Obviously, this is a despicable act of terrorism against two members of the National Guard and has rightly caused outrage. At the same time, there are calls for now every Afghan that was brought to the United States, many of whom risked their own lives during the war to fight against the Taliban, to now be deported back to Afghanistan, where they could meet possible death at the hands of the Taliban they fought.
Just listen to the way, like, this dude makes believe he's like a friend of Trump. This is crazy. Listen to the insidious way he phrases this. Some people are so heartless they want to deport every single Afghan to die in Afghanistan. Look, man, if you've actually assimilated to the culture, you know, and you're here legally, there's really nothing we can do about it. But if you're not here legally, you haven't assimilated to the culture, yeah, you should leave. You should leave, honestly. I hope that, you know, things go well for you over there.
So this is a complicated issue. What is your view about what has happened here?
I mean, as you mentioned, I believe in the previous segment, the shooter previously served in one of the U.S.-backed paramilitary units in Afghanistan that's been funded by the CIA. So I think
the CIA funded Afghan terrorists to fight other Afghan terrorists in Afghanistan. Does that mean we want them to be our neighbors? Like, bro, they took a utilitarianist perspective, okay, and they decided that allying with the U.S. forces in Afghanistan was a better move than allying with the terrorists that were killing the U.S. forces in Afghanistan. That doesn't mean I want that guy to be my neighbor.
I think if the U.S. Had never invaded or occupied Afghanistan and never built or armed proxy forces, the shooter or someone like him wouldn't have ended up here.
That's right. It's America's fault that radical Muslims are killing Americans. This is like 9/11 all over again. Like, dude, the biggest victim of 9/11 was Zohran Mamdani's aunt. The biggest victim of October 7 was the fact that Hassan Piker isn't being invited to events anymore.
You know, committing the act that he did. So, you know, this is constant blowback, and we see this time.
Well, you could go back further, though, couldn't you?
If look at this blowback. The blowback of the National Guard getting murdered in Washington, D.C. is the fact that we invited this person into our country. We didn't need to. We did not need to bring this guy here, okay? Like, there would have been no blowback if that guy would have stayed in Afghanistan.
If you were being reasonable about it, you could
She's not. This is the Palestinian activist talking point strategy. You start the story at a certain date. You'll notice that everyone talks about the Gaza war in between Israel and Gaza. Because she's a Palestine freak, she's obviously going to start talking about that from October 8th. Or from the fact that Palestinians were being, tortured in Palestine and Gaza for so long without actually addressing the actual story, like from the beginning. Like, dude, it's so frustrating because they pick and choose where to start history. They don't want to start history at any point that makes their cause look bad, and they'll just instead put these unbelievable spins on everything. And it's every single time. It's literally every single time I hear these people speak. It's like, all the Arabs were displaced when the Israeli colonizers came and kicked them out of their land. Well, actually, that's really not what happened, because if you go back just a year before that, the Arab countries declared war on Israel. Israel pushed them back. And then they were displaced, because the Israel won a war that they didn't start. So again, this is every single time. It's every single time. The Nakba was them losing a war that they started.
Go back to if Osama bin Laden hadn't ordered the terror attacks on the World Trade Center that killed nearly 3,000 people, then it wouldn't have been necessary for...
Notice how she starts that story with, how dare America invade Afghanistan, but refusing to mention why America invaded Afghanistan. It's all the times. It's like, why is Israel fighting in Gaza? Well, it's because, Hamas started a war against Israel. Again, Mrs. Palestine flag in the background, this is the strategy.
U.S. forces to go into the country that had been harboring him.
But who funded Al-Qaeda?
I mean,
it's
okay,
the same argument.
again, you can go back as long as you want, but I think to put it in context, obviously the reason that the United States were fighting in Afghanistan was as a response to 9/11. So that is the context.
Duh.
December is hard.
It's super obvious. It's like, and you have to start at a certain point, right? Ultimately, this guy should not have been in our country, but he was, and he murdered someone. All right, that's where this discussion needs to be had. We don't need to go back to how Muhammad, police be upon him, decided to start the most violent religion in the history of the world 1,400 years ago. We really don't need to go that far back.
I mean, at the end of the day, the people of Afghanistan weren't guilty for 9/11. It's these constant wars. It's these constant attempts at...
Bro, this does not explain why you had an Afghan national in our country that murdered our people. With all due respect, this is not engaging in the talking points.
Regime change, it's the creation of refugees, the destabilization of the Middle East that's constantly going to create this scenario.
Yes, the reason why there was an Afghan guy living in America for the last 3 years that murdered a National Guard on Washington, D.C., on the front door of the White House, was because of destabilization in the Middle East. Like, dude, that's not why. It's literally not why. Bro yelled Allah Akbar and decided to kill the enemy of his religion, okay? He was a radical Islamic extremist. It's the most obvious answer, and it's the true one.
At the end of the day. I mean, and the fact that the National Guard shouldn't have been in D.C. to begin with. I mean...
That's right. It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. National Guard were there arresting criminals in D.C. He should not have ever been arresting criminals. So therefore, it's not the terrorists' fault. Bro, this lady needs to go to jail. You're literally running defense for Islamic terrorism, man.
Sarah, the woman who was shot, had told her boyfriend that she felt like being there was pointless.
Who cares? She's a soldier following legal orders from her commander-in-chief. Completely irrelevant.
It's really a show of force to distract from multiple things that Trump ran on.
Show of force? She was murdered. What? These people, these are the empathy people. This is the empathetic left, and they're evil. It's crazy.
Failed on. He ran on affordability. He ran on ending foreign wars, yet they're trying...
He ran fundamentally on deporting every illegal in the country. That was his #1 thing that he ran on, the mass deportations.
To enact regime change in Iran and Venezuela. They're continuing to arm genocide.
He didn't regime change Iran. He took out a nuclear weapon that was planned to be used to kill us. All right, get the fuck out. Like, dude, why are we even giving these people the ability to speak, man? Like, you have the right to freedom of speech. You should talk. But why would we invite these people? Like, it's so dishonest. It's crazy. Why do we have actual, just open defenders for Islamic terrorism in mainstream media?
And Gaza continuing to arm the
There's no genocide in Gaza. We don't. The pretendicide, first of all, never happened, and the war is also over. But again, it doesn't matter. Facts don't matter to these people. It's all about these random bullshit. You got to run defense. You got to run defense for the Islamic terrorist every single time.
Bombing of Lebanon, and at the end of the day, the
bombing of Lebanon bombed Hezbollah terrorists who bombed their neighbors first. Again, complete disingenuous arguments every time.
Is going to create blowback where people in the U.S. are going to pay the price. People around the world, innocent people around the world are going to pay the price, whether with their tax dollar.
Like, do you understand what we're listening to? We're basically listening to someone saying it's actually completely morally justified for random Muslims around the world to kill random Westerners because of a war in Gaza that Hamas decided to start and lose miserably. But do you understand what we're listening to?
With their lives, with the decline of the economy. And this is all a distraction at the end of the day. They're scapegoating immigrants instead of looking at the real root of the problem, which is U.S. imperialism wreaking havoc, pillaging people around the world, and not caring, not doing anything to solve these issues here. I mean, like you also mentioned in the previous segment, how many U.S. veterans come back and commit violence at home? So I don't think it's an isolated incident, and they just want to use what happened in D.C. to scapegoat all immigrants instead of looking at the real cause of the issue. The warhawks and neocons in Washington, the architects of occupation and regime change in Afghanistan, Syria, Venezuela, creating the instability that forces people.
Like, bro, the reason why we're in Venezuela, we're not in Venezuela. The reason why we're in Venezuela adjacent international waters is because they have been sending drug boats into our countries, raping and killing us, as well as, for the record, poisoning 100,000 Americans a year with fentanyl. They have started this. It's insane watching this revisionist history.
To flee. I mean, 1 minute they're calling people HTS and other groups in Syria terrorists. The other minute they're meeting with them, then they're funding them. It's all political convenience.
All right, Vinny Ashana, your response to that?
Well, first of all, saying that, oh, if Sarah wasn't in Washington dressed in uniform, she wouldn't get shot, is complete bullshit. Because guess what? If it wasn't her, you don't think this Afghani terrorist would have found somebody else to shoot, just a regular person? And I'm going to go back, Piers. This all goes down, and as my veteran brother will attest, the most abysmal withdrawal of Afghanistan. We can talk about why we're there, and I'll agree with you on 9/11 and all that was complete BS. Everything that followed 9/11 with the illegal war. But how do you bomb a country for 20 years, and then Biden with Alejandro Mayorkas, you let in 80,000 people, no documentation, you can't vet them, there's no paperwork on them, and what do you expect for them to do while they're here? And that's exactly what happened, okay? You can't assume that these people are going to love America.
Dude, this guy's great. Every single time he's on Piers Morgan, he's just cooking it. I never really watched his stuff. He's on Patrick Bet-David's thing, I think. But he cooks every single time.
They hate America, Piers. They absolutely hate America. And there needs to be accountability for Mayorkas and the entire administration for letting these people in. On top of Afghanistan, what about our border? There's 2 million getaways, Piers. That's the freaking population of Nebraska. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their intentions are. And these people hate America, Piers.
True.
Plain and simple. There's no paperwork. There's no nothing. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg. What this guy gets to Sarah, God rest her soul, it's not going to stop. Just like she just said, it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep getting worse. And Trump has no other choice. Piers, it's funny how everybody blames Trump because this is the situation he's been giving. But nobody on the left wants to blame Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas. Why is that? Why is that?
I don't know, maybe Afghan terrorism. That's another thing we could blame. We could blame a lot of things, but pointing the finger at Trump or the National Guard for just being there is insane.
Curious.
Okay.
Anybody explain that to me?
Well, let me bring Matt Taddeo in. You're a former U.S. Army Special Forces soldier. You served in Afghanistan. First of all, it seems to me that at the crux of this problem, there's been a catastrophic failure both in the withdrawal that we all watched in horror on television, the way that was carried out, which involved a lot of deaths at the time. There was a sense of a duty of care to many Afghanis who had served alongside US forces and UK forces and others to preserve their safety from the Taliban they had been attacking, which made perfect sense. But there's also been a systematic failure, it seems, of vetting, with many people who were brought back to the United States not being properly vetted.
There was no proper vetting. They didn't do in-person interviews on these people. How could you possibly vet people that have zero paperwork? What did the Afghan government give you their retina scans to tell and their crime rap sheets? Absolutely not. They're coming from a culture where they're not compatible with ours. They're not compatible. This was inevitable because these people do not look at the world the same way. Again, this isn't bringing in one or two guys at a time and letting them assimilate into the culture, really good people that just want to make a better life for themselves or whatever. This is stuffing planes with 80,000 terrorists or potential terrorists. Dude, do you know that they let them keep their child wives? We brought in adult men with their 12-year-old wives on those planes into our country. That's actual sex trafficking, like actual child trafficking. It's insane that this happened. It's even more insane watching the libtards literally twist themselves in knots trying to come up with reasons why actually it's Trump's fault.
Having face-to-face interviews. So the whole thing seems to have been incredibly badly handled.
Yeah.
What is your view here about, first of all, what happened with these two National Guardsmen and what this Afghani retired soldier had done?
What? Piers Morgan just called him an Afghani retired soldier? Bro, he was a terrorist. He is an Afghan terrorist, an Islamic terrorist that yelled Allahu Akbar and shot 2 National Guards in Washington, D.C. on the front steps of the White House. Retired soldier? What are we doing?
Yeah, what happened to the 2 National Guardsmen was clearly an act of terror.
Obviously.
100%, make no mistake about it, it was an act of terror. And just because he ended up serving with U.S. forces over inside of Afghanistan for a period of time doesn't ensure that he is not going to commit acts of terror. At one point in time over in Afghanistan, for a very long period of time, we ended up having something called the Guardian Angel program, where we would have to have soldiers dedicated to watching our backs at all times, 24/7, to make sure we weren't getting shot in the back. These were known as green on blue incidents. They were profound. They were happening all the time. One of our officers ended up being shot in the head while he was on a Skype call with his wife, right? The guy ended up walking into the place where he was making this phone call and shot him right in the back of the head, right?
And that was an ally. And there were probably another 5,000 of those guys that got imported into our country with Biden's bullshit program. Like, dude, what are we doing?
This is not an isolated incident seeing things like this happen. And it's also
their alliance to their nation, it precedes and supersedes their alliance with America. And I think that's very obvious and apparent when you look at it. I mean, look, man, you just need to read the Quran. I'm telling you, man, none of these guys ever opened up a Quran and actually read a couple of verses. It actually becomes incredibly obvious that certain radicals in specific cultures do not actually want to ally themselves with us.
So not the only time, all right? And we're not painting all Afghans this way. I was talking to a man who I signed his SIV paperwork to come into the United States of America that I know is a good, honest, hard-loving, hardworking citizen. A lot of these people have done more for the United States of America than most Americans. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that they were not vetted and that we did have terrorists come to this country. Joe Kent went before Congress and testified and stated that we've had thousands of known terrorist affiliated Afghans come into the United States of America because they were not vetted. I've interviewed the soldiers and Marines who were on the ground at Kaya over in Kabul, and they will tell you that they weren't even given proper training on the paperwork that they should have been screened before they were coming on the base. And then you had members from the Department of State that would walk up to them and tell them, forget about the paperwork or add different things going onto it. It was an absolute joke. And so, yes, we do need to make sure we're going through, and we do need to make sure that we're properly vetting these people. It's not an attack on the Muslim community. It's just a fact.
But
U.S.
Matt,
isn't destabilizing the Middle East.
You've given some fascinating background there and some color to it. But you've also highlighted, I guess, the problem here and how it gets dealt with in terms of going forward. Right. Because there are clearly some Afghan people that were brought back from the war that you believe are good, decent people who served America's interests.
So vet them and figure out who is okay and who's not okay and get rid of them. Do the vetting that was supposed to be done under Biden originally. This isn't just get giant nets and round up every single Afghan and throw them out of the country if they're legal here. Obviously, that's not. I don't think anyone's saying that, to be honest. It's just these giant Afghan enclaves of people that weren't vetted that are now in our borders. It's crazy.
Great personal risk to their own lives, who I presume you would feel that there's a duty of care to and that they should be allowed to stay. So how do you determine who stays and who is thrown out?
By doing the proper due diligence. People that got on the airplane that had photos.
Just vet it, man. Vet it the way that Biden was supposed to. Go back on every single, and you know what? You should say that every single Afghan gets an appointment, all right, that wasn't properly vetted, that Biden brought in. They should get an appointment and show up on time to their appointment for vetting. And if they're not properly vetted, they're immediately held there for deportation. And if they are vetted and they're okay to stay in America, then they're let go. And if they don't show up to their appointment, they're considered an illegal alien. That's what I think. That's what I think we should do. Like, I don't know why everyone's dancing around this. Oh, that sounds racist. I don't give a shit. They're killing us. Why are we taking this like a game? Why do you care about the name calling?
Copies of somebody else's paperwork have absolutely no business being in the United States of America. And unfortunately, because of Joe Biden, we have to go back and check all of this paperwork to make sure the right people are here in this country. I spoke to one of those Afghans just the other day who's here living in the United States of America, and he's just as pissed off as everybody else in the country.
He's probably even more pissed off because now they're going to come after him. Right? This dude did everything right, ended up in America doing everything right. And then you have some other, another couple tens of thousands of Afghans that came here illegally, and they're fucking it up for him. Absolutely. It's the same with I don't know, you see black people and they're like, I really wish that the repeat offenders would actually stay in jail. The fact that we have woke judges releasing repeat offenders to commit more and more and more and more crime makes it so much worse for the black community at large than if they would just stay in jail. It's the same with the based Mexicans that are in America that, immigrated here legally. They are proper American citizens. They're contributing to society. They started up a business. They're doing everything legally and right. And then they hear all these stories about these people jumping over the border and pissing people off. It's much worse for them. Yeah, absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. Which is why we actually need to enact the law properly across the board. For the people that actually are keeping the law. We're literally sacrificing the innocent on behest of the guilty.
Because these jihadists are wrecking the United States and are trying to kill Americans. Over inside of Fort Worth, Texas, there was a terror attack that just got thwarted by DPS authorities over outside of Texas.
I just showed you a whole laundry list of people, of Afghans that were just arrested.
Last year in November, there was 2 Afghan ISIS-affiliated terrorists that got arrested that were going to plan a election day shooting terror attack. They bought hundreds of rounds of ammunition and 2 AK-47s from an informant. And so again, they just got busted and they got sentenced last week. Now, Trump came out on, Friday? And he said on Friday that we're going to be looking over everybody else's paperwork. And then all of a sudden, this terror attack ends up happening, right? So it was a Friday before the terror attack. Trump had came out and said that. And it was 2 days after the sentencing for one of those terrorists. This is not an isolated incident. It's 100% the fault of the vetting of what took place on the ground. Pierce, not just me, but tons of my brothers ended up getting signal messages during the Afghan withdrawal telling us that we'd get paid thousands of dollars if we had an active passport and we could get our butts to the East Coast. That's how piss poor this operation was planned. And so to sit here and pretend like people hanging off the side of a C-17 and falling to their death was somehow a great operation and we managed to properly vet everybody is a joke. It's an absolute joke. Even Mayorkas admitted in a separate interview with Lindsey Graham for a congressional inquiry. Even he admitted there is no way that he can 100% state that we have vetted 100% of these people. Not properly vetted, just vetted. It just didn't happen. It didn't occur.
Damn, bro. What a mess.
Of course.
I'm so happy we're able to talk about this openly, man.
Numerous examples of American citizens who've served in the armed forces who've gone crazy, right? Because of their time serving, because of war, having an impact on their mental health, whatever it may be. And they do commit appalling acts. That has happened. We don't know yet really enough about what this person did, Lekamwal, other than it appears he was deteriorating in his own life, stopped talking to his wife, his kids, and so on. Clear red flags.
Is he like actually trying to run defense for the Afghan illegals that weren't vetted, that are killing our people?
Being put up here.
Dude, I'm so tired of this like lib shit mindset where we have to treat every human being like where we have to take every single human being, and no matter how appalling their acts are, we have to run defense for them. Like, we don't need to be the universal lawyers of terrorists and drug dealers, all right? We could just kind of say what it is.
But may have been, we just don't know. I don't want to suppose what it was, but it may have been that he was just going through a severe PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was an Afghan person tied to Al-Qaeda that wasn't at all vetted, that was led into our country, that said Allahu Akbar before he killed 2 National Guard right after an Afghan guy was actually just arrested. And Trump said he wanted to look over their visas. It had nothing to do with any of that. What are you talking about, you absolute clown? You clown. No, he just had mental health issues, just like anyone else. Bro, I can't fucking stand these people. I can't stand it, man.
PTSD style reaction to his warfare, whatever, and then went crazy and commits this terrible act. But no amount of vetting, I don't know if he was vetted or not yet, but no amount of vetting would pick up that. Do you think there's also a...
The vetting might not have even had an impact here, anything. Vetting might not have changed anything. I hear that food has improved ever since we imported Afghans.
Failure of duty of care ongoing with veterans of all kinds, whether they're US citizens or foreign nationals who served with US military brought back to the United States.
Bro.
Yeah, I think there's a real misconception on what PTSD is and how it actually works. I'm a huge PTSD advocate for our veterans, and I do think that there needs to be a hell of a lot more care that gets poured into our veterans. At the same time, using PTSD as an excuse.
Everyone's screaming about socialism for illegals when we should actually be giving social care to veterans.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why would he go target 2 U.S. service members if he was having problems with PTSD after disappearing?
Right. PTSD, you hurt the people close to you, you hurt the people around you, you hurt yourself. That's most common PTSD. Not literally plant. Like, dude, you also realize he traveled. He didn't live there. He had to travel for like 40 hours to get there. Okay? Like, he bust his way all the way to Washington, D.C. to say Allahu Akbar, and with a gun that he was not legally permitted to own, he took that gun and he murdered 2 National Guardsmen, or, shot 2 National Guards and killed one of them. That's where we're at, man. This is not just an act of PTSD. He got angry and he did something rash.
For several months because he was fighting side by side with them. He wouldn't certainly go shoot them in the head, right?
So you think he got radicalized?
We have had, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. 100%. We know that probably he got out around 2017, 2018 estimated right now until we get all the paperwork that ends up coming out. So you have a big time gap right there, right? A huge time gap. Now, those guys over inside of Oklahoma that ended up getting arrested last year for the election day plot, they were also here on SIVs. Some of them allegedly didn't have proper paperwork when they came to the country. Biden administration ends up granting it to them anyways. Now, at the same time, over in Afghanistan, 2016, 17, 18, we got really hot and heavy into the war against ISIS-K. How Nadine ended up saying that, listen, the Taliban aren't the people of Afghanistan. That's a lie. I hate to tell you that, but it's a lie. The Taliban...
By the way, this is one of the great lies of Western defense for radical Islam in general. When the Twin Towers fell on 9/11, there were celebrations throughout the entire Islamic world. All right, in Iran, in Syria, in Gaza, they literally celebrated the Twin Towers falling. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that they all deserve to die because of it, but it is very clear that even the so-called civilians do participate in this. Not all the civilians, obviously. That's what makes this so muddy. But a lot of the civilians actually do believe this because it's what their religion says. Now, not everyone is a radical religious guy, but all of the actual radical religious guys do actually believe this because, it says it in their holy book. For example, when Hamas did their terrorist attack against Israel on October 7th that started the Gaza war, a lot of people don't know this, but it wasn't just Hamas. Hamas was definitely the brunt of the force, but around 50% of the force were multiple different terrorist groups that sprung out of Gaza as well, including just generic civilians that joined with Hamas to kill, murder, rape, and kidnap random people in Israel as well. So obviously, it's not just the terror groups, that people that get a name badge as part of one of the famous epic terrorist groups. A lot of the civilians do definitely believe this as well, without a doubt. One of the things that one of the people said in the UN, one of the hostages that was taken by Hamas said in the UN that during the Holocaust, there were some Germans that did save some Jews from the Nazis. While he was a hostage in Gaza, there was not a single Palestinian that wanted to help him or even smiled to him or even snuck him some water or to any of the hostages. Because in my opinion, the vast majority did think this was a holy war. That doesn't mean that they deserve to die. I am very sad about all the civilian deaths that did take place in Gaza. Very, very sad about that. And it's all Hamas's fault for deciding to start a war and use human shields. I understand where the blame lies, even though I'm very sad that these civilians did die. But I'm also not stupid enough to think that the civilians are actually secretly on the good guys' side, all of them, without a shadow of a doubt. Because that's not true either. They do support this to a large extent. You have women talking about their babies that were just killed in Gaza, talking about how their 3-year-old baby who died was a martyr for the cause. And that's fucking insane. So, of course, I have to make this caveat. It's not everyone, but it is a lot of them. And it's not just the people affiliated with terrorist groups. I'm sorry for the Islamophobia. I hope Zoran Mamdani's aunt is not watching this segment of the video.
Quite literally are the people of Afghanistan. Unless you're talking about the Pakistani Taliban, then it's a different story. But then we can go into history and we can talk about the border issues that ended up happening with the drunk British officer and Russians going into Afghanistan and pushing them across the border. The people inside of Afghanistan, 100%, are the Taliban. In 2012, when I was over there, it was very rare to see a Taliban flag flying across the villages. In 2016, 17, and 18, when I was over there, they were everywhere. Pierce, my very last operation, driving off of a target back to the base, there's Taliban flags just flying all throughout these villages. They have cemeteries with Taliban flags planted, everything. You had police officers, military, everybody that was like affiliated with the Taliban in one way, shape, or form. We can even get workers to come onto camp with proper vetting because they also had affiliations with ISIS and the Taliban. It's not a joke. This needs to get looked at. And absolutely, the people that served side by side with U.S. veterans over there have every right, in my opinion, and most veterans' opinions, to be in this country because they have done more for this country than most Americans. But to sit here and try to claim that we're going after Muslims or that we're going after anybody else is a lie. Those same Muslims that myself and my brothers invited into this country and signed our name to would stand side by side and vouch for the exact same things that I'm saying. That there is evil in that country and that it is involved within the civilian population, and trying to claim otherwise is a freaking lie. And it's doing absolutely nobody any good. And those types of lies are what gets people killed inside of the United States of America.
Well, it seems like the U.S. made the problem worse because in your own statement, you said when you first started going into there, you didn't see the Taliban flags. And then by the time...
I hate this line of argument because it doesn't matter if the U.S. made the problem worse. That has absolutely zero impact on the fact that we need to deport 80,000 Afghans. Okay? I don't care if the U.S. made the problem worse. Should the U.S. have been there? Likely not. All right, you know what? We're not relitigating that. Mistakes have been made. Absolutely. Bad things happened in the past. Also true. The U.S. did bad things. Sure, whatever. I don't care. The point is, right now, today, we got to get these guys out of the country. And this is like the emotional blackmail that they keep doing. It's like, you have to let your people get killed by Islamic terror because you were mean to them in the past. And no, honestly, no, we don't have to do that.
Time, decades later, it's worse. And it's this destabilization, the power vacuum.
Let's talk. No, it's not destabilization in a power vacuum. There's a power vacuum and destabilization that existed before we went there. That's just a fact. All right. The Taliban ran the country. We ended up putting in a government. The United States government has absolutely zero business, as far as I'm concerned, or most veterans are concerned, going in and trying to conduct a regime change in any type of country. We suck when it comes to nation building. Our record's horrible.
Yeah, true.
Even if we look at Iraq and we talk about what's going on over inside of Iraq and then trying to pass laws for 9-year-old girls to be able to get married to grown men.
Yep.
All right. That's not exactly what I would call a huge victory for democracy. All right. But over inside of Afghanistan, the moment we pull out, we have 6-year-old girls getting married off to grown men. 10% of the girls in
but they were just getting culturally enriched, right?
Out of Afghanistan under the age of 15.
Like, do you want those people in our country? Like the ones that, rape 6-year-olds? Oh, sorry, marry 6-year-olds.
End up getting married off. And I think it's an absurd number. It's like 60% or something like that end up getting married off before they're even 18. And this is their family selling them off to older grown men. And don't even get me started on chai boys. To sit here and pretend like you shouldn't be bad.
I do want to bring, okay, listen, hang on. I do want to bring in, hang on, Nadine. I will come back to you. I do want to bring in Destiny, who's been waiting very patiently.
Oh, there he is.
Destiny, you posted on X, the National Guards, weren't protecting DC. They couldn't even make arrests. They were sent there to die by Donald Trump and his cronies. So
Classic Destiny tweet. Classic Destiny every single time. Every single time. It's crazy how we could take the wrong side on issues like this, like so consistently. It's crazy.
Rile up the base to distract them from the monumental failing of every single part of this administration. Now, people have criticized you for this because they say...
because you literally said that the National Guards died as a ploy to trick people into hating immigrants or whatever. Yeah, because that's fucking crazy.
It just shouldn't matter whether they were there for legitimate reasons, or whether you question the politics behind it or whatever, that shouldn't mean that they are a target for terrorists.
The main point is that Donald Trump is using whatever he can to expand his power over the executive, to send more troops to whatever state or district he wants.
Oh my God, dude, it's such a brain dead take every time he does this. It's insane. Like, Destiny's a smart guy. I don't understand. Like, first of all, I don't understand how he had alleged child porn on his computer until he was called out for it. I don't understand that either. But another thing that I don't understand is how he could do this. Like, dude, do you want repeat offenders and criminals and illegals just, going through our streets like this? Like, I don't understand. We did see a drastic drop in crime in Washington, D.C. after the National Guard was deployed there. Like, what world are we living on? Is this just Trump derangement syndrome? What's happening?
No other reason than to just antagonize the population. The idea that you
it's literally not. That's literally untrue. Antagonize the population. Dude, it's the people that are actually following the law and support people that are following the law don't care that the National Guard is there. Literally, they don't care. The only people that are getting antagonized, for the most part, are the criminals. And the ones that are defending criminals. And the ones that are being lied to by the media that we're entering this fascist takeover regime where they're going to lock up black people or whatever. Which is not happening. It's not true. It's only the illegals that are getting deported. And the crime has dropped in Washington, D.C. It's insane that he has this take.
Send 1,000 National Guardsmen to D.C. or to California, 2 places where he's currently losing federal cases about his authority to even do this, and somehow magically fix all the crime there is the naivety of a 12-year-old. None of what's been said so far about all of the people that were brought here passes any basic sanity test. There were some 77,000 people that came from Afghanistan. The idea that we didn't vet any of them and only 1 or 2 extreme instances of any kind of violence or planned violence has happened just doesn't pass a basic sanity test. Where are all of the terrorist attacks that should be happening if we really brought over almost 80,000 people and didn't vet them at all? Also, the idea that there was no...
Didn't say that they didn't vet them at all. Didn't say that all 80,000 weren't vetted. It definitely is contributing to terrorist attacks and rapes that have been happening throughout the country as well. That did happen. Maybe not on a high enough scale yet, but let's cross our fingers and hope that more people get raped or something. I don't know what this line is.
Vetting whatsoever is contraindicated by the statements of our own
government. Nobody's saying there was no vetting, but there clearly has been.
Again, this is the ultimate Destiny strawman strategy. No one said there was no vetting. There just wasn't enough vetting. In fact, there weren't in-person vetting. We don't know a lot of the people that came into the country. A lot of them didn't have documents. Like, why are we playing this game?
I'm saying there was no vetting. No, but hang on, just to be clear, nobody is saying there was no vetting. But what is crystal clear is that they weren't all vetted. And what is also crystal clear is that some of the people who were brought over
because they admitted it.
Either were radicalized to start with and slipped through the net, or have become radicalized since arriving in the US. That is a danger to the United States
citizens. This guy shot the 2 National Guard. We have no idea why the shooting happened.
I mean, this is the guy that said we have no idea why the guy killed Charlie Kirk either, even though he wrote, anti-fascist shit on his bullets. It's crazy that we need to play this game every single time.
Anybody jumping on your Nancy Maces, the 2 gentlemen on the
Bro yelled Allahu Akbar and killed 2 National Guards. Yeah, you're right. We don't know exactly what motivated him to do it. Maybe it was his religious zeal. Maybe a friend of his said, if you die for our cause, I will fund your family. I don't fucking care why. Bro, it's irrelevant.
Okay, then how do you account for the guy last week that was planning on building a car bomb, literally talked about putting explosives inside of a car over in Fort Worth and attacking Americans that were against the Afghans and against the Taliban? The reason why you haven't seen massive...
No,
we're talking...
Get out of here! He just said, why are we talking about it if it's only one isolated issue? And then he's like, yo, but what about this other issue? And he's like, we're not talking about this other issue.
No, we're talking about vetting... We're talking about vetting Afghans. We're talking about vetting Afghans here in the United States of America. You want to talk about that guy. You don't want to talk about the Afghan that was planning on building a car bomb.
Oh my God.
The topic isn't about that guy.
It's so bad faith, it's crazy.
Who negotiated the pullout from Afghanistan?
So far off.
I'm curious, who negotiated that plan? Who negotiated that plan? Tell me. Can you even say who negotiated the plan? Can you even say who negotiated the plan?
I'll tell you that Donald Trump negotiated the plan, and on congressional record in November, and this comes from the former Joint Chief of Staff, in November, Donald Trump planned to do the pullout. Then when the Joint Chief went to him and told him, no, you can't do that because the Taliban's going to take over, Donald Trump immediately rescinded the order within 24 hours. It was under Joe Biden that he decided to pull out of the country. That is fact. It's on congressional record. Go look at the congressional record. You might not like it, Destiny, but it's a fact. Yes, the Doha Agreement was on it. The Doha Agreement was on there. The Doha Agreement was done by Trump. Then the Taliban violated the Doha Agreement, so we weren't going to pull out. That's why Joe Biden fell into the situation that he did. Now, you might not like facts, Destiny, because they go against your narrative, but they're facts. And it's congressional record.
Hang on. Okay, let me jump in. Look, what is inarguable is that when the withdrawal happened, the president was Joe Biden, and he had been for many months. It was on his...
Who granted the shooter asylum?
He could have ripped up any plans if he wanted to.
It's so bad faith, it's
He went ahead with that plan, and it was a total fiasco. and we all watched it on live television. Let's not try and let Biden off the hook. He can blame Trump
We're not
if he
letting
wants.
Biden off the hook.
I
right
like
now,
holding.
Piers, I don't know
I
if
like
you
holding
guys are
presidents.
over in the
Destiny.
UK.
I like to
Donald
hold.
Trump is
Hang
the
on.
president right now.
I like to
Donald
hold
Trump
presidents
is
for
the
account
president.
for what.
Donald Trump is the president right now, so we should blame him for Biden letting in 80,000 illegals. Yes!
Happens on their watch.
Yes!
I think it's a fair
And
thing
the
to
shooting
do.
happened on
Whoever's in
Trump's
power.
watch. Yes.
The shooting happened on Trump's watch, so it's his fault while he's trying to deport people, and the left is stopping him from deporting people. Like, dude, why are we playing this game? This is crazy. He's trying to get this mass deportation thing happening. He's trying to vet these people. He's being stopped everywhere by every single leftist politician, every single one of them that's organizing these ICE protests and riots and shit. They're stopping him as much as they possibly can. He's fighting tooth and nail every single individual instance. And then he's like, it's Trump's fault, actually, that he's not doing enough job. What the fuck?
The shooting right now happened on Trump's watch.
Yes, it
correct?
did. So the question.
This is crazy. This is crazy. Biden hires an assassin. Trump becomes president, and then the assassin kills someone. It's Trump's fault that the assassin killed someone because Trump was technically the president at the time. Makes sense to me.
The question then becomes. The question then becomes.
Prior to that, he said we need to. In the week prior to the shooting, he said we need to go through and revet everybody, didn't he?
Yeah.
Did he not?
Didn't you just say
Isn't that a good thing?
No paperwork.
Didn't he just say that we need to go through and revet
when
them?
you said there was no paperwork.
That's exactly how you revet.
That's how you revet them. If there's no paperwork, they gotta go. No, bro, what are we talking about? That is revetting.
Them. I said that they have photocopies of paperwork, and that comes from testimony of Marines and soldiers that were on the ground saying that they were photocopying paperwork, and that members from the Department of State would go up to the soldiers that were on the ground, screening the paperwork, and at times told them, don't even worry about it because it's all screwed up at this point. That's what ended up happening. Now, again, you might not like facts, Destiny, but they go against directly what you want.
Where are
There's
all
over
of the terrorists
100,000.
here? If there are 80,000 of them,
I just
100,000,
explained
He
70,000
just said there was another one, and Destiny said, yo, we're only talking about this one.
that I saw brought in under this particular program.
Why would
How
you
would there
not want them
where
all
are the
vetted,
terrorists?
Destiny?
Where are all of the
Are you
terrorists?
That's ultimately a fantastic question. You hate Trump so much that you don't want these 80,000 people to get vetted. Why don't you want them vetted, man?
Destiny, why would you not want them all vetted? A vehicle-borne IED. Are you not going to just acknowledge the fact there's a vehicle-borne IED?
My question for
literally last week, someone was stopped for trying to bomb people. Literally last week. And it's like, Destiny's like, no, we have to talk about this one. We're only talking about this one case. But where are all the other ones? All right, here's another one. Whoa, we're only talking about this one case.
Is why would you not want all of them revetted in light of this appalling attack?
Good question.
Because this is security theater. It's a waste of time to say we're going to revet. We're
A
going
waste
to
of
reanalyze.
time.
It's like,
Bro? What? Dude, what?
like when Dope
A waste
said
of
we're
time
gonna
to see
save
any
money.
more have been radical.
Bro, we might have 80,000 people in our country, but looking into that might be a waste of time.
Radicalized.
It wouldn't have been a waste of time if we would have done this before this retard terrorist murdered this innocent girl on Washington, D.C.
Given they weren't.
Dude, look at his face. He's just in shock. He's never heard something so stupid in his entire life. Waste of time to revet them. What?
Revet every single. It doesn't mean anything. What do you mean revet? What does that even mean? They just.
It means you look into them. You make sure that they're proper to be here, and if not, they go. Huh?
Check their credentials to see if they're here on false credentials.
He's losing his mind. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
And if they are, that raises a massive red
Why
flag.
have they been granted entrance into the United States if they were here under false credentials? That doesn't make sense.
They stuffed them into. The borders were open. People flooded in. They were stuffing them onto planes without vetting that they admitted in Congress. And they literally brought them all in, unvetted. So we should vet them. And he's like, why waste our time vetting them? Dude, this has to be Trump derangement syndrome. Like, again, this is what's so shocking to me. All right, so this lady here, she's obviously retarded. She's radically pro-Islamic terrorist. Honestly, whatever. I could respect that in its own way. I think that you should probably go to jail for inciting violence or whatever the fuck. But yeah, no, honestly, whatever. At least she's upfront about it. She's pro-Islamic terror and she blames American imperialism, whatever the fuck. She's retarded. Cool. But this guy's supposed to be smart. What's happening? He's like the best leftist debater right now. He's on CNN. He's featured on all these places. He's on Piers Morgan all the time. And they bring him in. He's like, yo, it's a waste of time to vet people that might be terrorists.
That is well known.
No, Destiny, do you know how the SIV program works, the Special Immigrant Visa program works for these Afghans that were coming here to the United States? What they needed to have paperwork-wise in order to vet them? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. So guys like me who put my name on an official memorandum and said, this person should be here, here's my contact information. Now, if somebody sends me an email that says, is this the person you vouch for? And the face looks like somebody else, and I say, no, that's how you properly vet them. There's a lot of different ways you can go about doing it. And when there's multiple copies of the same paperwork for different people that ended up coming into this country, somebody's getting kicked out. And when we have somebody that planned on conducting a vehicle-borne IED attack in Texas just a couple days ago that got busted for doing it, you don't think it's important. You would rather watch Americans get blown
You're
up
trying
and
to
get
make
killed
the claim
than
that this is an
offend
attack that
somebody.
could have. Please stop with the virtue signaling. We only have so much time. You're making the claim that we could have. You're making the claim that we could have vetted this stuff.
Stopping terrorists is virtue signaling. You can't make this up, man.
Before it ever got to the United States. Again, for this recent shooting, we don't even know what the motivation was.
Oh my God, dude, he was a radical Islamist that yelled Allahu Akbar who traveled for hours and hours to get to Washington, D.C. and murdered 2 National Guards in Washington, D.C. What do you mean? He's obviously not a, honest to God, goodness, integrated American civilian. What are we even talking about?
There's no guarantee. This guy had 5 kids and lived in Washington. How are you what are you vetting for to even know that these guys
know what the
motivation
is for the We know what the motivation is for the 2 guys in Oklahoma, and we know what the motivation is for the guy down in Dallas. All Afghans here on SIVs.
And what would you have vetted for to catch these guys?
Let me bring in Vinny. I want to bring in Vinny. Let me bring in the others. I want to bring in Vinny. Vinny.
All right, Vinny. Meanwhile, it's so funny because these 2 guys, they have totally different perspectives. Destiny just hates Trump, so obviously he doesn't. No, actually, we shouldn't vet them because it's a waste of time. And she's like, no, actually, we need more Islamic terror in America. The left's strongest soldiers, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I want to say one thing, with all due respect. I'm not going to call a grown man Destiny. His name is Steven. So, Steven, Piers, who are we going to listen to? An actual U.S. soldier who's been there, that's been in the shit, or a guy that plays Fortnite? You play video games, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. How about this, Steven? How about not let 0 of them in here? 0.
Wow,
we're bombing the shit
that's a crazy take. What? No. Not invite people from the third world that have vastly different cultures and values to us? What?
For 20 years, and you can't vet them. He's actually making a good point. You can't vet them because people have different freaking motives. And out of that 80,000, Steven, you're acting like every day they're going to be bombing and everything. Trump's been in for 1 year. This is the tip of the iceberg, and it's going to keep on happening.
Here for 6 or 7
hold on,
years.
Steven, let me finish.
How many people do you need to see?
Steven,
if there's a single bad immigrant from any country, you ban all of them? Is that
not a single... Dude, he just mentioned that last week there was multiple people that were arrested for trying to rig an explosive. Why does he keep ignoring this? And that's aside from, I gave you an entire list of people that were just actually just now blasted from the actual Homeland Security. This is an entire thread of these guys. All right, so this is Jamal Wali, an Afghan national headed to the country under Biden who shot and wounded 2 people in Fairfax, Virginia. This is Abdullah Hajzada and Nasir Ahmed Tawedi, both Afghan nationals given legal status by Biden administration, arrested and prosecuted for plotting a terrorist attack in Oklahoma for Election Day. This is Mohammed Karwin, an Afghan national who was on the terror watch list, who was apprehended by the Biden Border Patrol and released into the country, who was arrested after, allowing to live in the United States at large. Javid Ahmadi, a criminal illegal alien, once again from Afghanistan, who was arrested by ICE in 2025, convicted of a 2nd-degree assault, was previously allowed to stay by Biden administration. Baruli Nouri, an Afghan evacuee, arrested in Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, charged with attempting to engage in a sexual act with a minor using force, along with 3 other counts in engaging in sex acts with a minor. All right, generational pedophile. We have Zabihullah Mohammed. All right, police be upon him. An Afghan national who was resettled in Montana by the Biden administration, charged with the rape of a teenage girl in a Missoula hotel room. Dude, what? Hello? Huh? It's obviously not an isolated issue. Obviously not. And you don't know how much more is coming. For all you know, this is part of the Muslim Brotherhood's 100-year plan to settle people that are sleeper agents in our country for years until they outbreed us. For all you know, that's the strategy. I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't care.
Steven, guess what? They might be biding their time. Steven, they might be biding their time. And I'm sorry, with all due respect, I don't want to listen to any...
the literal Muslim Brotherhood says that they have a 100-year plan to conquer the West. They want to put as many of their radicals in the United States and Western countries as much as possible to sit there from 1991 to 2091. That's what they said. And in 2091, they want to be a strong enough minority or already a majority in different countries to conquer. That's what they said. All right. Now, I'm not saying that all the people that are here from Afghanistan are part of the Muslim Brotherhood. I'm obviously not saying that. But I am saying that it's not such a far-fetched take either.
I don't want to listen to any...
Were they part of the assassination squad?
Let me finish. Steven, are you the guy that was celebrating the fireman Corey Competore that was shot? You were celebrating that he died at Butler. You're the same guy that said conservatives need to be afraid. You're a piece of shit. No, Steven, I know exactly who you are. The public needs to know who you are. You're blaming Trump. Yeah, you're blaming Trump.
It's crazy that he calls him out for something and then Destiny doesn't even let him speak, so he just yammers for 5 minutes. Holy shit, dude.
Nothing to say about it.
Listen, Steven, you are a scumbag. I don't even know why they're listening. Who wants to listen to your opinion on any matter? But guess what? It's the tip of the iceberg. And guess what?
Dude, shut up. What the hell, man? He's trying to say something, and he's just like, hey, pop an aspirin, maybe pop an aspirin. Well, just a good roast. He definitely is turning red. Good roast. I'll give you on that one. But, dude, what is even happening?
me ask Vinny a question. Vinny, here's the problem I have with simply saying don't let any of them in, and if they're all here, throw them all out. A lot of these people, as we've heard from Matt, who served alongside some of them, a lot of them are good, decent people who were properly vetted, who have lived in America now for a number of years with their families, committed no crimes, giving no indication they're going to commit any crimes, are not radicalized. And we all know if they get sent back to Afghanistan and they are identified as people that worked alongside US forces against the Taliban, we may as well execute them before they even get there, because that is what the fate will be if they get back to Afghanistan. So I feel very uncomfortable, because the same situation applies to people in the UK. I feel very uncomfortable about these interpreters and other service people who may even have fought alongside our troops, right, who were fighting the Taliban because of this one incident, and others. And Matt's right, there have been others too, but it's a small number so far that we take thousands of people, many of whom, most of whom,
every single unvetted person needs to go back. That's without even a shadow of a doubt. Every single unvetted person. The ones that were vetted and you know, given the okay and they immigrated here and they show no signs and stuff like that. Look, man, ultimately we do have laws, and that I totally get. But if you're not vetted properly, you gotta go. And the idea of not wanting to, and the idea that you don't want to accept more of them also makes a lot of sense, not gonna lie.
Would be completely blameless.
I don't see how it's enhancing our civilization or our culture, man.
Other than they helped us, and we throw them to the Taliban walls. Would you be comfortable if we suddenly see scenes on television released by the Taliban of them executing all these people who risked their lives for us?
No, I wouldn't feel good, Piers. But you know what? All that aside, I'm an American first, okay? And I don't want one American dying from anybody from another country that we've been bombing, Piers. With all the compassion and that suicidal
But why should anyone ever help us again?
Vinny,
why should anyone ever help the United States or the UK in a war again, in the way that they helped us in that war against the Taliban, if we just throw them all to the wolves and it leads to them being executed? Nobody would.
Because they wanted to be on the winning side of the war. That's why they helped us. I don't think they helped us because of their love and compassion for the United States. I think that's also a very romanticized retelling of history. They wanted to be on the winning side of the conflict. Ultimately, it didn't shape up the way that America wanted, nor the way that they wanted. But that's honestly, that's where the chips fell. Like, they weren't American patriots fighting for us, all right? They just, like, bro, are you insane? Are you crazy?
No, Piers, then guess what? Don't get into these stupid-ass wars then. Well, I agree with her. No, I agree with her. Then don't get into these wars, Piers. But at the end of the day, Piers, America first, American lives. While everybody was eating turkey and having a good time, think about that girl's family, Sarah's whole family, grieving and burying their damn daughter. I'm sorry, Piers. I am so sorry. As a veteran, as a child from legal immigrant parents that came in through the right process, I'm sorry. I want that many Americans to die. Can you see that number? Zero. So we have to take everybody out and re-vet them. And I actually do agree with Stephen too. How are you going to vet? There's no paperwork. How do you know? You just bring them in and go, oh yeah, I trust you. You love America.
All right.
I'm sorry, Piers.
All right.
I'm sorry. It's a shitty situation that Trump didn't start.
Okay, Nadine, your response to that.
How do you feel about the war he's starting in Venezuela right now? If you want to do no more wars, and you've got Donald Trump on the precipice of trying to
those people are literally drugging our people. Like, I don't understand what is with the left and running defense for narco-terrorists. Like, what are we doing here? Like, they are literally sending drugs into our country, killing us. Like, they started this, man. What?
regime change in South America.
So Stephen, are those boats fishermen? Stephen, are those boats fishermen? Are those guys fishing?
Now we have the excuses.
I think one thing that's missing from the conversation
accountability for this
is
guy.
the shooters in the U.S.
Okay, let Nadine speak,
trying to say stay on topic.
Let Nadine speak.
No, I think one thing that people haven't focused on enough is the fact that the violence begets violence. That the violence that the U.S.
Dude, everyone understands exactly how this works, okay? Like, bro, dude, like, this is the craziest simpery for Islamic terrorism I've ever seen in my life. This is on mainstream news here, and like, and just, well, because there were wars in the Middle East now, actually, the Afghanistan terrorists should be killing our National Guard, actually.
Imperialists, take on abroad will come back to the U.S., whether it's through immigrants or people, whose families go back generations in the U.S. Look at the attempted, Trump, the person who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump. Look at the person who assassinated Charlie Kirk. These aren't migrants. These are people, who've lived.
You think that the person that is the furry, transgender, gay communist that murdered Charlie Kirk, you think that that guy was radicalized by the war in Afghanistan? Are you fucking crazy?
Here. So the U.S. continuously being involved in violence abroad has only made this situation worse. And there isn't these types of mass shootings happening all around the world. This is something that we see exclusively happening in the U.S.
Are you insane? Europe is literally the rape capital of the world. Are you crazy? Like, dude, what? This is a map of a death toll of Islamist terrorist attacks in Europe from 2004 to 2019. Now, can you tell me the difference between these countries here, these Eastern European countries and these Western European countries? Can you explain to me the difference between them? Oh, I will. These are the ones with open borders. These are the ones without open borders. So you see, there actually is a really good solution to this. That's one. And two, it is happening in Europe. It's happening in Europe more than in America. Dude, there were just these 2 Jewish guys that were murdered by an Islamist Syrian guy in England. It just happened just 2 weeks ago. There was a guy that was walking his dog that was murdered by an Islamist, Afghanistan guy, by the way, in England just 2 weeks ago. There was this story that I just talked about today about this girl who took off her hijab so her family did an honor killing and drowned her for it in the Netherlands just this week. So again, the feminists, they don't care. They don't care that this is happening. None of this matters to them. It's all about their petty pro-Islam grift that they're on right now.
And instead of that being addressed, mental health being addressed, pulling out of wars across the world, we have...
Dude, like, I'm telling you, this girl watched Hassan Piker one time and developed her entire worldview over that one live stream that she watched. Like, this is so retardedly childish. It's insane.
ICE raids that are basically just a show of force, wreaking havoc.
ICE raids are not a show of force. They're trying to get all the illegals out of the country. The invaders, the ones that are in the country illegally, trying to get all those guys out. Do you know why? It's because it would help everything, actually, in the country. It would make the economy better. It would give more Americans jobs. It would make real estate cheaper for Americans that actually want to buy a home. It would make traffic better around the world. It would make the crime rates go down around America, etc., etc. It actually would benefit America immensely and drastically if the ICE raids were done and we actually got all the illegals out. And it would actually help a lot more if retards like this didn't decide to protest and violently riot against them.
Cities like New York City, an ICE raid was thwarted here just a couple of days ago from protesters, and then Palestinian activists.
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't thwart the ICE raids. Everyone's complaining about how New York City's real estate is too expensive, and meanwhile they have an extra 1 million illegals in New York taking up apartments.
Like Mohsen Mahdawi, like Mahmoud Khalil, being targeted, so
targeted. They're here not as citizens. Those 2 people that she just mentioned, Mahmoud Khalil, he is for the record, he's on a visa while he's proclaiming support for terrorism. All right, having a visa is not a right; it's a privilege, and you can lose that privilege. You shouldn't have a visa if you're supporting terrorists that are enemies of the United States of America. So yes, he should lose his visa and he should be deported without even a shadow of a doubt.
End of the day, this isn't about
Nadine, do you think that undocumented immigrants in America who
there's no such thing as an undocumented immigrant. They're called illegal aliens, Piers. Get with the fucking program, you libtard sack of shit. I can't stand it, man. I don't even hate Piers Morgan. I just think he's like an old school liberal, and it's not working. We're not in the old school anymore. The world does not look like it did when you were 20, Piers. Wake up, man.
Commit crimes unconnected to their immigrant status should be deported.
I mean, that's not what's been happening, though. They've been going after people.
I know. I have the same concerns about those who have not committed other crimes. But do you think...
Piers, you are... Again, he supports, with his own words, like I showed you before, he supports the cultural enrichment of England with the grooming gangs and all that shit. He doesn't care that they're illegal. He just... If they're illegal and they commit another crime on top of that, then maybe they should get deported. Absolutely not. There's a reason why countries need borders. If the country doesn't have borders, it's not a country. If you're here illegally, you gotta go.
Specifically, that if they're undocumented and they commit another crime, they should be deported.
I think at the end of the day, these things should, play out.
It's either yes or no, isn't it? I mean, I just think there is universal agreement pretty much. That, well, not
sure,
universal.
but people are being accused of crimes that they didn't commit.
But if they're convicted of a crime,
if they're convicted of a crime,
if they're convicted of a crime,
he was accused of a thought crime. So I'm not going to say that somebody like Mahmoud Khalil should be deported.
Mahmoud Khalil didn't do a thought crime. Mahmoud Khalil was an actual terrorist supporter. That's first, and second of all, I don't care if it's a thought crime. You're in the United States of America, not as a citizen. You shouldn't be here literally to destroy our country. If you're here, I'll just make it even simpler. If you're in the United States and you hate the United States and you're not a citizen of the United States, you should get deported too. You should get your visa revoked too. There's no reason to keep you here. Why should we keep you in our country?
Right. Okay, but that's a problem.
First of all, if you're in the United States on a visa screaming globalize the Intifada, your ass needs deported, period, end of discussion.
Exactly.
1000%. No, this dude is based as fuck, this military guy. He's awesome. 100%. Absolutely. No doubt. Globalize the Intifada is an incitement of violence around the world.
Would you like to explain what the first and second Intifadas are?
This is why we can't have this conversation.
You like to
because they want to say globalize the Intifada is a crime, and that's a
explain what the
offense.
first and second Intifada.
First of all, let's make this clear. The globalize the Intifada is a crime because it's an incitement of violence. It's not protected under freedom of speech. That's one. Two, you don't even need to commit a crime. You should get deported. Your ass should get deported if you're not a citizen and you hate America, regardless.
This is why your question is
what the
a straw
first and
man.
second Intifada were. Go ahead, explain the first and second intifada, and then we'll discuss
Intifada
why they
means
shouldn't live here in the United States.
Intifada means
I don't
shaking
care
off
what
of
it means.
Yeah, intifada means uprising, and also Islam is the religion of peace. But no one cares because intifadas were mass bombings, bus bombings, public stabbings of civilians. That's what intifada is.
Explain.
And Destiny's quiet because he even agrees with this.
The Holocaust Museum actually used
Explain what it actually means. Explain what it actually means. Okay, you want to avoid the question? I'll say it for you. It's twice when Palestinians decided that they would go into Israel.
Intifada
I speak Russian. What's your point?
Shaking off of
Okay,
oppression.
and I don't care what it means. It's also what it means in context, right? So when a Palestinian calls and claims globalize the Intifada, they don't mean globalize their resistance. They mean go after the oppressors and start killing people.
True.
Palestinians also believe that the land of Palestine is all encompassing of Israel. So when you talk about occupation, and Hamas is talking about what happened during the second. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah, student groups that are organizing protests that are led by actual terrorist supporters that aren't citizens of the United States should be deported, no doubt.
They go in and they murder people. So you're talking about going in and murdering people. That's what it's actually talking about. That is the answer. No. It's not contextualizing. It's what legitimately happened as part of history. They went in and they murdered people. That's a fact. They went in and they murdered people. That's a fact.
And Israel has murdered way more Palestinians.
Israel fought a war that was started by the other guys, and a lot of people died as casualties, largely because they were used as human shields by terrorists. Yep, that's true. That's what happens when you lose a war. Yeah. Absolutely. October 7th was the biggest military miscalculation in human history. They decided to start a war against Israel, and it ended up with Gaza getting obliterated, Hezbollah in Lebanon getting obliterated, the Houthi leadership in Yemen getting obliterated, Iran's nuclear forces and ballistic missile factories and leadership getting obliterated. Yeah, it was a pretty bad miscalculation. I guess you shouldn't start wars that you're not going to win, I guess.
We're moving off the topic.
You can take your Intifada and you go to Palestine and go kill your own people.
We'll debate the Intifada a different time.
Like him want to
we'll debate that another time. I want to give a
thought crimes. The thought crimes of stabbing people and murdering people. The thought crimes of blowing up buses.
Final words of Destiny. You've not had as much time as the others. So what would you finally like to say, Destiny? I mean, I would ask you the same question. This all comes back to the overall immigration policy of the United States.
Correct.
Right now. It seems to me most Americans agree with the pretty well shutting down of the southern border. They think that's a good thing for American security, to not let millions of people come in illegally on the southern border. And most Americans I've talked to on this show and privately agree with deporting people who are undocumented and commit other crimes. Do you agree that those first two things are a good thing?
Yeah, like broadly speaking, yeah, I think we have to have a secure border. We have to know who's coming.
Hell yeah, Trump best president. I guess Destiny admits. Hell yeah, based. Biden shitty, Trump goated. That's what Destiny thinks.
Into the country, and we have to be able to remove people from this country, especially people that are committing real crimes. If you have a traffic ticket, I don't know, but like if you're a felon or you're committing any kind of violence, of course, absolutely. I think almost every American would agree with that. The issue is that one is that people aren't always honest about their immigration positions. So you've got Tomato Vinny over here who wants no immigrants or wants to, what's the term they're using now, re-immigrate, wants to deport every non-white immigrant or everybody from a country that...
Dude, why are you straw manning, man? I don't think he ever said anything like that.
They don't like, and then restart the process or
no one ever said that. Bro, what's happening?
Realistically, just not bring any of them back at all. So when you try to have the conversations, you can't even give any ground because the people on the other side aren't even honest about what their positions are, number one. And then number two, even if you have strong feelings about immigration and what immigration policy should look like, you should hate the way that Donald Trump is doing it because Donald Trump has taken a position where there is, Charlie called these 80-20 positions, right? Deporting people who have committed violent crimes is a position that almost every American would agree with. If Donald Trump would have gone to every state and had said, let us into your state prison.
This is literally a lie for the record. In case you're curious, this is literally a lie. And I proved it in my previous video. There are 7,100 plus illegal aliens that were violent that are in jails in New York. And New York is refusing to even let the 7,100 violent illegal aliens get deported. So this is literally a lie as proven by the facts. So you could shut up. You can't even like ponder what if Trump would have gone this way. Trump tried to do this in New York and it failed because they were fighting back to protect the 7,100 illegal violent criminals that are in prisons as leeches on the taxpayer. So this is just completely untrue.
Let's go through who the illegal immigrants are who have committed felons or class A misdemeanors or whatever.
That's one. And two, also, I believe personally that every single person here illegally needs to leave. That's why we have laws and borders. Yeah, actually, we can't just reward people that jump over the border. Bro jumps over the border. Woo! I'm in America now. Whoop! Can't deport me. Can't deport me. I know I invaded your country illegally, but no, can't do anything about it. I'm here. I'm here to stay. I'm just here for the better life. No, actually, every single illegal needs to go.
And let's deport them. That's a policy that any Democratic governor standing against is going to be incredibly unpopular.
Except it worked in New York. Except they're running for defense for this in New York. Literally, this just happened this week where they tried to deport the 7,100 illegal violent criminals in prisons in New York, and they stopped them.
Instead, you've got Kristi Noem, who
in my opinion, that's an insurrection, and everyone that's defending these 7,100 blah, blah, blah needs to go to jail, too. I think that that's literally insurrecting against the government.
You know what habeas corpus is, who's lying left and right about almost every part of everything in her job, is standing on a building with a camera showing the horrible protest with like a guy in a frog suit and 7 people recording with iPhones.
I mean, you had ICE agents that were shot. So, like, I don't know why we need to underplay, like, these protests or riots when there were ICE agents that were literally shot, where you had terrorists shooting at ICE agents missing and then accidentally killing the illegal immigrants. You had tons of these cases. Like, what are you talking about? You had police officers that had their heads cracked open, their skulls were cracked open because they were smashed with a garbage can. This just happened last week. There are just tons of these. I don't know why you need to focus on the inflatable dinosaur protesters when the reality is there are a lot of violent ones.
You've got the most ineffective administration ever. Their deportations are not on.
Yeah, you know why they're ineffective? They're ineffective. Firstly, thank God, a lot of people are out. Not enough. Not even close to enough. Trump needs to definitely ramp up a lot more, and I think he needs to start arresting the mayors and the governors that are obstructing justice. I think they need to go to jail too. No one's above the law, you know what I'm saying? But the reality is the reason why they're not more effective is because they're being stopped at every possible twist and turn.
Schedule. They're never going to deport the amount of people that came in under Biden. They lie constantly about the number of people that came in under Biden. The last number Trump said was 30 million. They would have to deport like 20,000 people a day for 4 years to even hit this number.
Hell yeah, Based. Let's up those numbers, Based.
It's just ridiculous and absurd. So if you really wanted to deport the people that were here illegally, even if that was the thing that you wanted, Trump has been one of the most ineffective leaders ever when it comes to this.
Again, I love how people are going to do this. It's like, wow, Charlie Kirk was a very ineffective speaker because we killed him on campus and now he can't speak anymore. That's literally his argument. That's literally what the argument is. Trump is not effective enough because they're rioting and protesting and committing acts of violence against ICE officers and obstructing justice all over the place, where the entire leftoid group of the country is working together to thwart him and his legal right to deport illegal aliens every step of the way. So, like, yeah, you could say that he's ineffective, but at the same time, there's a reason why he's ineffective that's not necessarily completely his fault, even though it is partially his fault. He should go harder. He should start arresting the mayors and governors. I completely agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. We should start throwing Democrats in jail. Every single Democrat that says we need to protest against ICE, all of those guys, they just jail, every single one of them, all of them. 6 months in jail, probation, I don't know, obstruction to justice charges. Absolutely, no doubt. Yeah, Based. True, Destiny. You're so right. We need to ramp up the deportations, Destiny.
Deportations. And every single time he talks about it, the first word out of his mouth is Biden. It's Biden's fault that this guy was...
Biden let them in, so that's pretty much his fault, yeah.
The shooting...
Like, this entire issue is largely Biden's fault. True.
To this country, despite the fact that it was Biden's Department of Homeland Security that ultimately granted his asylum. It's Biden's fault that all the illegal immigrants came in, despite the fact that illegal immigration was tending up under Trump even more than Obama. It's everything...
But definitely not as many as Biden. So, yep, nope, it was Biden's fault, actually, yeah, true.
Biden's fault. The buck has to stop.
What, is Trump supposed to take accountability for the tens of millions of illegals that Biden let into the country? I don't exactly understand what the point he's saying.
President at some point, and Trump has failed on.
He just wants Trump to humiliate himself in public, and it's just not working out, I guess.
Every single
You know what it boils down to, though? What it boils down to, and this terror attack is actually part of the problem, is that, as you say, every country needs a border, or it's not a country, it's just de facto. But also, you've got to know who's coming into your country.
True.
And that's the bottom line. Everything, actually, all roads.
True.
Whether it's the original part of our debate.
And that's why every illegal needs to go. All of them. Every single one. Without a doubt. Without leaving a single one here. If they're illegal, they got to go. All of them.
Way it's moved. All of it comes back to who should be in the country. How do you...
the people that are legal in the country. The people that are not legal in the country shouldn't be in the country. Really hot take. I know, it's crazy.
Get those people. You know, I've repeated this many times this year.
And the crazy thing is, like, we have like social experiments, right? Europe is just and Israel are great social experiments. What happens when people are not being tracked while they're in the country? And I don't mean tracked like government surveillance on everyone, but I mean just like people that are invading the country illegally. Like, what happens when that takes place? Like, just look around. Look at the countries that actually has that, and you'll notice something pretty suspicious about the amount of rapes and murders.
When I apply for my visa, it is a long, laborious process of paperwork and lawyers and money, and I do it the correct and proper way. Then I get my visa, and I'm very happy and proud to have it.
Great.
But if people just waltz over the border, it doesn't just piss people like me off who've done it the hard way. It pisses off everybody else in the United States who's come in legally and properly. And we have the same issue.
Yeah, it's not just about pissing people off, Piers.
Okay, and it's the same issue in many countries around the world now. You've got to protect your border, and you've got to know who's coming in, and you've got to get rid of the people who do not suit the values of your country.
Or the ones that came in illegally. Why is Piers such a cuck here? Like, it's crazy. He's like, he gives this whole defense for why we need to actually know who comes in illegally and who actually enters the country. And then he's like, but we should not be deporting the illegal immigrants unless they committed crimes. Like, dude, why do you have to cuck out like that, man?
Hate your country and want to commit crimes in your country, and that's how you get a stable country. On that bombshell, I'm going to leave it for now, but thank you all very much.
Yeah, anyway, bro, it's just actually like the liberals are like the actual cuck panel. Like you have Piers Morgan, who's like, well, actually we need to stop people from coming into the country illegally, but once they're here, it actually makes the country a better place. It's actually making the country so much, the food is so much better. I'll trade a couple of raped children for a delicious dish of curry. Then you have Destiny, who hates Trump so much, he's gonna be like, well, actually we shouldn't vet them because it's a waste of time. We shouldn't vet terrorists that are coming into our country. It's a waste of time. Why should Trump waste our time by doing that? And then you get this retard over here who's sitting here in the center being like, well, actually Islamic terrorist attacks is actually a good thing because America did something across the world a couple of years ago when Islamic terrorists killed us first. So again, this is every single time. Like this is the leftists on the panel. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. This dude's based though. I never heard of this guy, but he's based as fuck. God bless our troops. God bless our country. God bless every single person that's fighting for God and justice, but specifically the ones that are fighting for the correct God and justice.